might as well get started. I don't want to take up, take up too much of your time, but why don't I turn it over, Sarah, Mondo, and Michael, if you guys want to share what, and I heard recently, Leo, he couldn't make it. He mentioned there was a lot of stuff on options on this last exam. If you want to touch on, I don't know if you guys found that to be the case. He didn't explain too much, but I'll turn it over to you guys if you guys, any tips you want to share with the group, and then we'll, hey,
I've got a tip. I love putting my CFP credentials on everything. I put them on everything, everywhere I go. So, and I do, of course, in the Zoom and all that other stuff. Thanks, by the way, Alan, for putting this together. This was the thing I credit to really pushing me over the top. I took the exam twice. I failed it the first time. I usually don't fail professional exams, but and then I took Alan's class that he's about to do here, which really, and I've been using it, and I'm now doing the RICP, and I'm going to continue to keep using it going forward. So I wanted to get a little refresher. So thank you, Alan.
Yep, no, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, I'll hop in here.
Sure.
I come from a very unique background. I actually spent the last 20 years of my life producing sports documentaries for ESPN, NFL Films, CBS Sports. So my journey's been a little bit different. I had very little professional financial industry experience. I guess in 2019, got the bug to get certified through Dave Ramsey's Financial Master Coach training and start a side coaching business, which I loved. I thought it was great. And just through that over the last 6 years, really kind of decided, hey, I really enjoy this stuff. So I ended up retiring from film production last July. And then did Dalton for my education, started that on July 11th. Did that in about 9 months. Finished in April, and then spent April to July studying for the exam, and then passed it on July 11th, the year to the day, which was kind of poetic. So that was really cool. But I had a decision to make when I started. I have personal finance nerdery in my life, my entire life of my own personal financial situation, but I didn't have a ton of industry experience. I've probably helped 50 to 60 clients over the last 6 years with cash flow and some planning aspects. So I knew I had something to rely on, but I chose Dalton because I wanted all the information, and all of the Reddit subthreads were all like, hey, if you want to know everything, pick Dalton because they're going to tell you everything. It might not help you with what you need to know on the exam per se. It will help you, but it might be overload. So I said, hey, that sounds good. I'm going to try that. So I did that and I loved it. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I really appreciated the professors that I had. I loved the portal. I loved how it was set up. I loved for somebody like me who wanted to go deeper in a lot of spots I could. And I think that really prepared me well to actually sit for the review and start studying for the board exam. I think I was in a little bit of a better situation because I came straight out of 9 months of studying for the school part of it and the education part of it to go right into the review program. I know a lot of people do not do that, but I felt that that was very beneficial for me for sure. So that's kind of how I got to where I got when I started studying in the review program. But I absolutely will say Dalton will absolutely prepare you to take the CFP board exam, but their question bank is very different than what you will see on the CFP board exam. And it's not that it isn't helpful to use Dalton's Q bank. It's very helpful. Dalton's Q bank is going to make sure that you know exactly what you need to know to pass the test. But the way they ask the questions is a little bit different. It's a little bit more straightforward. It's not what I call multi-level thought process on a lot of the questions. There's a lot of very straightforward, one step, one layer thought process in most of the Dalton questions. And I would say, in fairness, that in the Q bank, I would say 40% of the questions are harder than what you're probably going to see on the CFP exam, but only harder in the sense that it's just a lot more niche. The CFP exam presents itself to be a little bit harder because you actually have to think 1, 2, 3, 4 levels deep on why something would be the correct answer. And one thing that I think that really helped me with Dalton was their review program, the way they laid it out. Everybody says, follow the schedule, you'll be fine. And that really is a true statement. They give such a good day by day schedule over the 3 months that you're going to be studying. that if you do follow that and you make sure that you're doing your part and you make sure that you're doing the reading and you're doing QBank when you need to hit it and you're studied up before you hit the live review, you're going to walk in there with a lot of success and confidence.
Cool. Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Anything else? I'll pass it over to Sarah and Armando. And I think you guys work together, study together a little bit, I believe. Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I know it's a very broad thing. I'm sure there's going to be some more specific questions. So if I need to stay around at the end, I'll absolutely stick around to answer some questions.
Yeah, Sarah and I
Alan,
met.
Alan, we're getting a
virtually.
little bit of background on somebody's phone.
Can you hear me? Sorry about that.
There we go.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you, Christy. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Hey, Lynette, we just joined. Michael just shared a little bit about his success, how he did it using the Dalton program. But now we have Sarah and Armando just passed it as well, and they're going to share their quick tips, and then I'll take it back over and walk through how I did it. Okay. Looks like Armando's connecting back to audio.
One
Sarah,
quick thing while Armando is connecting back, I would recommend finding a study group. I did all of mine just digital the entire time, but we had the live review in Atlanta where I live, so I actually went for 4 days, and it was very helpful to be in class with some people that were kind of going through the same thing. But through that, I found 6 people that from the day it ended to the day that we all took our tests, we kind of became a little family. We Zoomed 3 times a week, sometimes 4, especially as we got closer, it was a lot more. But take advantage of people in your circle that you are doing life with or studying with, because that is absolutely helpful to bounce ideas off of. It's not just financial planning ideas. It is, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I'm worn down. I'm worn out. I feel tired. But it's encouraging, and you're going to need that by the time that you step into test world, because you're going to need somebody on your side and who's your cheerleader. So absolutely take advantage of study groups and all that stuff.
And I just put my Facebook down because we have a group that Brian and I kind of administer in Facebook. And when I was going through, it was very good, and people were asking each other questions. It's kind of quieting down, so I'm hoping people, but send us, connect with me on there, and we'll invite all of you to that group as well. But it was. I totally agree, and it's not only true, not even just for studying. It's Michael, what your point is, and I believe most people in here are career pivoters, and so in that whole challenge of while you're doing something on the side, which studying for this, it's having that support group of some confidants really helps mentally, or emotionally, keep going when you're feeling like God, so just that I totally agree with that. And I transitioned from the military, and I had a couple of people too, as we're looking for what's next. It really helped us out as we were, keeping each other lifted up, shall I say. And that goes exactly here. So, okay, back to Armando and Sarah.
Yeah, I think Armando is trying to connect back. I'll share first. First, I want to share a little bit of background about me, because knowing the background, then knowing how long you studied, then probably more helpful without knowing the background. I'm an enrolled agent, so tax said it will be a little bit easier for me. I focused on the estate planning and the investment planning. And in investment planning, which is really good, because I found Armando, we connected through the last Zoom meeting that Alan and Brian organized before the July exam. And then we talked with each other, and then we connected. So during the last 4 months, 4 weeks before the exam, we basically talk weekly and sometimes daily on the questions we came through. And during the last two weeks before the exam, we had a weekend section, and just maybe just do some questions together, and they're really helpful, I think. And a study group, I think if you don't want to be in a big group, it can be in a small group, like 2 to 3 people, and then that will really help you to go through the long process. Because if you study by yourself solely, you may feel like burnout so quickly because you don't have somebody to talk with. Even your family, maybe they don't know this subject very well. So I think that really having a group partner really help. And I'm not sure if he's online. I can share more about like how long I studied and what was my plan like. I'm a retaker as well. I finished my I finished my education in last August or September, but and then I took it last November, but I did not pass because I know I just want to take the chance, and so because I only had 3 weeks to prepare, but I did a lot of exam in the Q bank. So I think that get me familiarized with the topics, with like the hard topic there they talked about. So I know, oh, okay, these are the questions I need to focus on. So on the second time, I studied on during April. So that was after the tax season, almost after the tax season. So I know I can focus on the prepare the exam. So so end of April to I guess July, so 2 to 3 months. I think for most people that is enough. Any longer, you will probably feel like, oh, this just dragging so long. But with you give yourself, if you give yourself 2 to 3 months to prepare and then plan it out, and how long you plan on study every day, I think it's very possible on the exam. And I do agree with Michael that the exam is very different with the question bank. For example, the exam has no, like, okay, they will have like a four answers to one question, and they will ask you which one is the correct, like 2 or 1 2 or 2 3, those type of questions. They don't have those on the exam because they just ask you straight answer, A, B, C, D, like 1 2 3. They only have 4 answers. You only need to pick one. But I think those type of questions actually prepare you to really understand the topics. And my study, I just give the brief like a review on my study plan. I went through the book first, like topic by topic. I want to finish this topic, this book, this review books by like 2 days or 3 days, and then I finish that. Then I go through the next book, and then I go through the next book. When I go through the books, I do the exam questions on each chapter, also on the end of the book as well on that topics. So that took me probably 3 to 4 weeks to finish all four or 5 books, and then I started the question bank. So because I took the question bank before on my November exam, so I only have like 1,200 questions left. So I just built on top of that. I finished that. Then I didn't really have time to redo all the questions that I did in November. I feel like, okay, then at the end, I just did the easier question and the medium question. And I think that's enough to get me through. I think at the end, the last like a week or so, I did not do much, but my mind is really focused on the exam or in the overall of the test, not about like a specific question or like the basis or the options or something like that you have to get through in the earlier part of the preparation, because those are questions, if you don't get it, then at the end you probably feel frustrated, and also there's so many other things that you need to focus on, like mentally prepare for the exam, like those tabs. So early on, since like right now to November, you still have how many, like 3 months, about 3 months to prepare, and that would be enough to tackle the hard questions. But the thing is, I think everybody gonna have different questions. Like I talked with Armando after the exam, and he said he had a lot of calculation question, like education fund or retirement fund, but I didn't get even one. And I'm preparing myself well for those questions. I know that, okay, I know how to calculate that. But the thing is, even though you prepare, I think you should prepare, because somebody have that and somebody do not have that. And if you have that, then you know that you're prepared for that. But if you don't, then I guess you just, it's a good practice to have. It doesn't take you, yeah.
No,
So
real quick, absolutely. And the calculations might seem hard right now, but those are kind of gimme questions almost once you've been doing this. So just so you guys, as you guys start preparing, but go ahead, sir. I don't want to cut you off, but when I hear something important, I just want to share.
yeah. So when first did the calculation, like when I studied for the first round, it seems like, oh, there's so many different tabs. But actually, at the end, you will find you find that actually the calculation problem it's just those tabs. And then you don't go different tabs or cash flow or something. If you master one method, you just use that one method every time, and then just it helps you because you don't need to learn different tabs. Because I know when I went through the first material, when I do the education part, they at each chapter they give you different method. You don't need to master each different method. You just master one method at the end. So that is what I say the difference between the adulting education and the test. And other than that, and I think like an option, Armando helped me because he's really good with the investment side. So he helped me on the options because I think I understand the options, but still there's some questions in the Dalton question bank or the practice exam that will be so like frustrating. But then we talked through and he helped me on that. It just I feel like, oh, this is so much easier now. So I think like having a group partner that have like each have different strengths, that really helps. And I just want to share this much, and I want to give some time for Armando and Alan for the OneNote section as well.
Alan, can I hop back in here after Sarah shared that, just to give some context?
Yep.
I ended up studying for about 430 hours. Like I said, I retired from my film production job. So from about January till July, I had a lot more time on my hands. I know that's not normal, but I was able to go through the Q Bank 2.5 times. The first time I went through, I had like an 86% on it. The second time I went through, I had a 93%. I felt pretty confident about it. And there are so many questions that, yes, you'll memorize some of them, but you're not going to memorize all of them. But I think the formula of, hey, make sure that you've read up, make sure you know what's in the books, make sure you're revisiting that stuff, live review and QBank is a winning formula for sure, like Sarah said. And I think that anywhere in our 6-person group, there was 200 hours to my 400 plus hours, and all of us passed. So it really just depends on how much you need personally, but there is something for everybody in that QBank for sure. It's going to press you. And one thing that we did that really helped, we actually I put, and I can share this whether it's in the group or in the chat, I came up with a question breakdown every single day. Hey, this is the percentage of what you're going to see on the test, what you're going to see on the exam. So this is what we're going to simulate every day we go into our QBank. We're going to do 11 questions on fundamentals. We're going to do 7 questions on insurance. We're going to do 14 on tax. We're going to do 16 on investment, 18 on retirement, and so on, which was really helpful because it kept it in proportion to what you were going to see on the exam. So I would also say that's a really, really important thing to kind of model. I had 2 fire alarms during my exam, which is not normal either. We had to leave the building twice. I was on question 38 of the first section, and then about 30 minutes later, we had to leave the building again. So that was kind of weird, but you just have to simulate being ready for everything. And I think you will do that if you kind of just practice that kind of flow when you break it out like that.
I also wanted to say to Sarah, you and I did not fail the first exam. We just took a live dress rehearsal the first time through. And it's funny because when I took the first time, my heart was beating out of my shirt and I was a mess. I went back in the second time, I was like, I'm going to get it this time. It was just, total confidence going back. So Sarah, we just took a dress rehearsal the first time through. That was all that was.
Real quick on that though, don't do that. Don't plan on doing that. For a lot of people, failing an exam is so brutal. Sarah seemed like she went in knowing she wasn't going to pass. She wanted to see what it was like. After other people, it's going to be devastating. So plan to prepare for it once. Let's prepare once and pass it first. Okay, Armando.
All right. So a little bit about myself. I am an advisor for one of the big four companies. I've been in the industry for about 7 years. I work in a trading desk for about 2 years, trading options. And then I moved into a fixed income desk. And I did that for about 1.5 years before transitioning to an advisor role. I did my undergrad and MBA in Utah. I'm actually from Ecuador, grew up in Ecuador in an island, and then moved to the US for school. And I do agree with Michael. Questions are very, very different from what you'll see in the Dalton education program, but it's very helpful. I felt very, very prepared before the exam. I booked my exam for the first week. It was Saturday, so I was just hoping to take the exam before that, but I couldn't. But yeah, I think what Alan and Brian are going to show you is going to be very helpful. That's basically what Sarah and I did. We used a lot of OneNote to prepare for the exam. Also creating, smaller groups, like Sarah said, it's going to be very important if you want a support group. Also, I'm willing to help if you guys have any questions. You can throw them in the Facebook group. I can answer when I have a moment. I'm sure that Sarah can do that too. I think the coolest thing about working with Sarah and as a group was that we both have different resources. She was really good at tax, because she's an enrolled agent for the IRS, right? So when I had questions about tax, I just went to her. I texted her, my questions, and she was able to answer real quick. So that was really helpful. Also, I took advantage of all the tools that I had, available for free, like Quizlet. I created my own Quizlet group thing. I have the CFP app. You guys know, I don't know if you've seen that. Basically, CFP released that CFP app. It's not the best thing in the world. They're still using some very outdated questions. Like they're still using 2023 limits for retirement accounts. So it might not be the best tool, but it's really helpful. Also, one thing that you guys can use for free is Notebook LM. That allows you to create podcasts for free, and that's basically a tool from Google. That's a new tool that they have. You can create basically a podcast. That's what I did for the ethics portion. Basically, I just throw everything, the link from the CFP, and Google creates a podcast for you that you can listen while you drive. You can use basically all the tools that you have available. You'll prepare, but yeah, that's what I can share there with you guys.
Yeah, Biff Bites is another good podcast, right? That people use for you don't have to prepare your own, but that's great to have that kind of resource. Okay, anybody else have any comments before I get?
I have a quick question,
Yes.
Michael, Sarah, and Armando. So I am a second-time tester. I also took it in November of last year, thinking that I could get through it. I'm very busy, so I am a financial advisor. And I obviously have children, I'm married. There's really a lot going on, but I took a break. I'm hoping to take it again in November. I think what I find, what I'm struggling with Dalton, this time around, I actually read every single book, just like Sarah mentioned. So I read everything. I kind of have a feel for everything that could be thrown at me, but I'm having a hard time recollecting the information when I go through the questions. It's kind of like I know this because I read about it, but when I go to answer the question, I kind of freeze. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea. Like I know what it is, but then I don't. And then as I move forward, taking now all these questions, how should I structure it? Because I also feel that I let's say I'm in retirement and I'm at a certain, I don't know, question bank or whatever, and I just can't get past it, or I'm struggling through that. Then I forget everything I just went through, accounting, for example. Yeah, I was doing very well in accounting, a week ago. So how do you guys structure this where you're constantly taking questions and these questions are helping you kind of retain the information in practice? I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think one of the big things is kind of what I just hit on. You have to structure your QBank time the way the exam is going to give it to you. So I think the process that I took is I basically took 2,498 questions, divided it across 30 days, gave it a percentage, and then said, hey, ChatGPT, how many questions per day do I need to answer all of these questions in the next 30 days? And I did that twice so that I could go through it twice. But I think when you structure that way, it allows you to go, hey, I might be a little bit weak in this area, but I'm pretty strong in this area. And it kind of lets you hone in on how much time you need to spend per subject area, even inside of those subject areas. And then you have to remember some of that stuff's not going to be on the test. You might study like Sarah did with her calculations, and my test was very logic heavy. I had very few calculations, and I was kind of mad about that too because those were layups. I love the math side of it, but a lot of my questions were not that. And there's like kind exchange questions that freak people out and all sorts of stuff. And the reality is, if you're going to see a question, you're maybe going to see one question on that. So spending 6 weeks trying to figure out a like kind exchange is not the most efficient use of your time. So you really got to be honest with yourself and say, hey, I really struggle with XYZ. Let's make that priority and just make sure that I'm strong in all these other areas. Otherwise, you're just doing yourself a disservice. But I think you just have to be very honest. And then secondly, it's really worth getting a tutor if you are struggling with a certain concept. Like I tutored everybody in my study group at one point or another with something that they were struggling with. And I absolutely am going to offer that service to people in this next cycle. I already have 4 or 5 people that I'm going to do that with. But getting a tutor allows you to have some personalized, like, hey, I don't understand generation skipping transfer tax. Can you just explain that to me? And also, don't ever hesitate using ChatGPT, because if you say, hey, will you explain like kind exchanges to me like I'm 10? It's going to do that, and it will give you a much more foundational understanding of, hey, I'm struggling with this. Oh, now I kind of get this. And then you can go to the next level. Hey, explain it to me like I'm 21 and I've, been an adult for a little while. Hey, now explain it to me like I'm a financial planner explaining this to a client. And it just kind of lets you dive in a little bit deeper. So don't be afraid to embrace the weaknesses, because you're going to need those weak areas to pass the exam.
Yeah, I think like I think I understand what your struggle is, because I'm not coming from a financial planner, or I did not have any experience other than my tax experience. So in the beginning, when I went through all the materials, I feel like all these are so many information, massive, and coming to my mind, I couldn't retain. And then, like you said, when you're reading through the materials, one thing, when you go through the questions, you feel like, oh, what is it asking me for? So I feel like went through the book and do the chapter questions immediately after helps, because that chapter question really asks for the information in that chapter, and also the end of the book, the question as well, and that will help you return on that chapter. Another thing that helped me is like you have to build yourself a mind map. I talked with Amanda on this a little bit, because mind map is different from when you're passively looking at the material and you are like a retirement plan, like you have a qualified plan, non-qualified plan, and you divide this into categories, and then you from these 2 categories, and then you are branch it off. You can make it yourself, even though you don't get it complete, but at least you have a branch, like a tree. You have a branch, then you have all the knowledge of the leaves, then you know what is the leaves definitely be there. So it actually give you a shortcut to that knowledge. And next time you come through that, you immediately grab that, instead like rather than, okay, you're like maintaining all the leaves in the basket. So I think that really helps. And also I think like as a financial planner, as yourself, you use this material as a study tool. That will be different. Like, like if you come across option questions, like, okay, if I have a customer ask me all the option questions, like, or the basis questions, I need to be able to answer that. Then you have the time to prepare for that. I think you need to tackle the hard problem early on is really help you prepare for your, like, on your client, um your client questions, like, building on that foundation later on. At the end, then you probably won't have time to do that, and you'll be cause more frustration. So the early on using resources like I know Dalton has really resources on this hard questions. Like they're having like I'm not sure everybody has that or only guaranteed pass has that, but they have like supplemental questions on all the hard questions. I think if you went through the videos, and you will be able to understand that. And yeah, and I think yeah, and just to like in short to answer like how you can get through all the materials. Oh, uh another thing is just using shortcut, like when you like what is that the one that's like uh Uber is I forget.
The acronym.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that acronym.
for the financial planning process.
Yeah, there's so many like things you need to remember. You have to come even if you cannot come out yourself, you can reference others like Dalton has some, or you can just create a scenario for yourself, and then later you'll be able to reference that scenario. And you just you have to spend some time like focused on that subject and then remember it, because those questions will come up at the exam, and they'll be easy, and it will be a shame to miss it. So yeah, that's another
Okay.
tip I want to give.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to cover that because I'm going to go into everybody needs to have a brain dump that they throw down right away, but I'll get to that towards the end. Okay. You guys ready for, you guys?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing real quick that Alan shared with me, and I'm using now with my wife. She's taking her securities exam, and I've been using it for the RICP and continuing on, and probably will become a lifestyle learning. Is Alan would get up at 5 a.m. and study first thing in the morning. My wife was studying at night, and by the end of the day, she was just so wiped out, she couldn't learn anything. Now rearranging her schedule and studying in the morning has been a game changer. Going to bed earlier, getting up earlier, studying for an hour in the morning really has made a big difference. So back to you, Alan.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, sounds good. Real quick, I want to answer, I think, Leilani, I think you had a question on what's the structure of the exam. So before I get into the rest, the exam is 6 hours and 40 minutes total. It's really like 4 exams. So you get in there and hopefully everybody can go to a testing center. I would not take this at home. All the additional potential pitfalls, it would not be worth it. So if you're anywhere close to a testing center, take it at a testing center. But you have to go in and get security wanted. It's time consuming. But then you get in and the exam, it's 170 questions broken into 2 85 question 3-hour periods. But those it's really 4 exams. So it's 43 questions on that first 85. You have to submit it, cannot return. Then another 42 questions, then you submit it, return all those 85 questions in an hour, and then you get a 40-minute break. Really, it's about 25 minutes because you got to go back and get your wanded off, and then you go back in and repeat it for the second half of the exam. 85 questions again, 43 questions. You have to take that portion, submit it, cannot return, and then 42 more questions, submit, and then you hit the final submit button and do a quick survey. And then it'll come back, with your results. If you've passed, if it says you've passed, you've passed. There's never been a single time that somebody got a prospective pass and then later failed. There has been a few cases, because they always throw out a few questions, where somebody that got a prospective, they thought they failed and then they passed, but that's still unlikely. But if you got the pass, you've passed. So congratulations. Okay, did that answer the question about the format of the exam? Because you're kind of forced, it's like 4 different exams. So you got to watch the clock if you're a slow test taker to get through those 43, because you've got another 42 that you need to answer in that 3 hours, in both cases, okay? Also, I want to touch on what they were saying about the Dalton question bank. It is harder. Dalton tries to over prepare you, but the CFP exam is purposely hard. On the pyramid of exam difficulty, like the base being like, okay, define this term, very simple. It's not. It's on the top 2 levels where you have to know the material and how to apply it. even on the exam, likely 2 answers are probably good. Which one's better? Not all of them like that, but there's enough of that. So you have to, eliminate the ones, 2 of them are like, nah, those definitely aren't. But then you have to know the material well enough to apply. So that's why though, because Dalton's harder and it can be anxiety building, take the free CFP practice exam as well in those last couple of weeks, because that's a little bit easier and more realistic of what you're likely going to see. Okay, you guys, I see Michael, you're nodding your head. You agree with that? Okay. Clearly, as you guys have heard from everybody, there's no easy button to pass the CFP exam. I mean, it's a bear, and it's a 60 to 65% passing rate historically. It's no joke, but you know what? I'm glad it's hard, because if it were easy, anybody could do this. And so the marks wouldn't mean as much, in my opinion. A little bit, I guess, about myself. I got into personal finance. I was enlisted in the Navy as an electrician, got an officer program. I was a submarine officer, and my military is terrible with money. And I initially tried to bring in people outside before I felt confident enough to teach it to my sailors, because to me, helping them out personally and along with professionally and financially that's what I needed to do as a leader. But I had to learn it well enough to freaking teach it. So that's how I got into it. I considered on transition going into financial planning. I didn't like what I saw in the industry. Too high of fees, still too many commissions. And I was like, F this, it's not a mission I can support. So I've been at Viasat running a satellite network for the last 7 years. But I get there and all these high-tech engineers don't know how freaking crap. They're like, how do you know all this stuff about money? And I said, years of self-study. Should I do a lunch and learn? And that went over so well that then I had to get permission, because I just did it without asking. I'm like, whoa, there could be some liability here. But I got permission to continue these, and I'm like, okay, I need to go get my CFP, because this is what I really love doing. But I was busy as hell. I didn't retire. I was working full time running a satellite network. I also had I took the American College, the CHFC. So there's an 8th class. I was taking that 8th class while the Dalton CFP prep course started. We were remodeling, and specifically my home office, which that's all my wife cared about. And work, of course, as things always happen. And I think that a lot of you guys are like this case. You can't just drop everything. So you're going to be, how much can you spin? I was burning the candle at 4 ends. Work, of course, got into crisis mode, like you're about to deploy and something major breaks. That's what happened. And it was long-term, a lot of work fixing. In early May, I thought, maybe I made a poor decision of signing up for July, just with everything going on. But I pushed through, and I'll explain how. First, is everybody, I use the HP 10BII, which is what most of the courses use. You got to be comfortable with that right out of the gate. That should be something simple. Like we said, calculations, while they might be hard initially, or like give me is kind of on the test. After you do enough practice exams. The Dalton prep course, it says when you expect to study, if they say have no other priorities, which, sorry, it's life. We have other priorities. So, but they said expect to study 15 to 20 hours a week. That's a lot. Think about that. If you took a day off, that's at least 3 hours a day. And so expect the time commitment. And as Brian said, here's the thing though, it's not 3 hours. It's got to be focused 3 hours. But my overall approach to this exam is what I call humble confidence. So I had completed the course pretty quickly, like Michael. And sadly, everybody just expects me to pass exams, and my brother's probably the only one that realizes the reason I pass exams, not because I'm brilliant, but because I put in the hard work and I get it done. And so I put my head down. That's why I'm like, how am I going to do this? Well, I needed time that's my time. So I got up at 5 o'clock, and that's when I did my CFP work. And that also left typically the evening open for the family. Not towards the end. Towards the end, I was like, Netflix, no, I don't care. But the thing is, I knew that if I just took the courses and went in and took the exam and kind of blew off the prep course, I would fail. But if I put my head down and did the work, that's where the confidence comes in. I knew I'd be able to pass it. So that I think is important. And Brian, I think, can back me up because he initially didn't study too hard, and he's been in the industry. You know, hey, I know this stuff. It's an ass kicker. So do the hard work, and you will be successful. Okay. Let's see. I think I already covered that. Okay. Everybody, okay, they do have, I'm gonna start sharing the screen. They do have, everybody's talked about following their process, you know, that because they give you a schedule, and let me pull it up here. Okay, and here's, let me see, I'll just expand this out fully. This is the schedule they give you. Basically, it tells you day to day what to do. But what you need to know is how you learn yourself. Michael and Sarah both talked about reading. I read this crap, and I'm a slow reader, and that was stupid. That was not how I learn. How I learn is being taught. I go to when I was in college, I went to class. I never read any of the engineering physics books at all, and I aced the course because I went to class. I listened to the instructor, and if I had a question, I asked. So if I were doing this over again, I wouldn't do the reading because that was just so, I would go right into the videos, then test myself, because that's what answering those questions, that's where I'm like, ooh, I guess I don't get that. And then I would go back, if I couldn't figure it out, I'd go back and look in the book, you know, to figure out what the answer is. And then it would save me hours personally of my time, because that's how I learn. And so I didn't have the time to do everything. I didn't finish the exam bank entirely one time because I just ran out of time with everything, with all the 4 candles burning. But that's why I would have changed what I did. And you need to know how you learn. And if reading is not your way of learning, and because that's a lot of reading, then watch the videos, take the exam, you know, figure out how you learn most efficiently and do that. Okay, any questions there? Okay, exercise. Don't forget to exercise. Your brain works better when you're exercising. And I'll get into my final battle rhythm, but that's what I usually did because I was working the day job. So I would study, get up, I'd do as much studying as I could, but it has to be focused. If I wasn't focused, I would leave. I would go exercise or do something. So because my brain, you have to be focused, and those hours are useful, or else it's just a waste of time. But I would basically get up, study, and then go exercise and shift, go to work, you know, do my day job, and then go back if I needed to. But towards the end, like I said, it's very important. And what I did in my final 3 to 4 weeks for exercise is, instead of running or like something where my head's bouncing around for zone 2 work, you're not going to set PRs during this time, but you still need to exercise. I started walking on an incline treadmill, and I would sit there and watch the classes over at 2 times speed. And so I'm sitting there studying while I'm getting my exercising, and my brain's working actually better, because when you're in motion, your brain actually works better. So don't not exercise. There's a lot going on, but that's how and I know, Angela, you were like, I can't do that. I want exercise just to be exercise, study to be study, but I found it to be very effective in getting both done. And I would also listen to the things in the car, you know, just it really helped. But like I said, you must be able to focus. And Leilani, you've got kids, young kids, when is the time that you can find that it's just you? Because you can't have your kids distracted. Your husband's gonna have to take over, you know, like you got to make sure that because this is a family effort. So I want everybody, you know, especially I think of the mothers here who take the lion's share too often of the work at the house. This is your time. You need dedicated time for yourself, and your family needs to understand that. Okay. And just finding out what the time that works for you is. For me, my time was 5 a.m. You know, I knew nobody else was up, and I could study. Okay, questions there? Okay,
Can I add one thing, Alan?
yes, of course.
One of the things that I really struggle with because I'm all gas, no brakes when it comes to just getting stuff done, I would just get to the point that I just wore myself out. In the 3 months that I was studying, there were 3 days that I didn't do something, but all three of those days were days that I woke up and I knew, hey, I don't need to look at anything about this test today because I'm not gonna press through or push through to learn anything. I'm so mentally fried or exhausted, or I'm so preoccupied with life going on and I'm not gonna have attention. Some of those days are gonna happen in this process, and that's okay. You need to build in a day or two or three where you're like, hey, today is an off day. I'm gonna
Yep.
try to switch my mind off. Nothing is going to happen today that's going to keep me from passing this test, but something will happen today that's going to help me pass this test because I'm going to refresh. I'm going to be ready to go when I pick it up 48 hours
Exactly.
from now or whatever.
No, that's so true. And that's the thing. You need to be focused. If you're not, just stop, go do something else, because you need to be focused. And that's what I do. I just stop, go do something else. And exercise a lot of times is what helped me because it clears my brain. It's it's always been my emotional, like therapy as well as physical. Let's see okay. So when I find, if you can also along those lines, if you can take the week off before the exam, do it. I couldn't take the whole week off, but I took the exam on Monday. I took Wednesday afternoon, Thursday and Friday off, and then I had the weekend. And that way you can just get yourself prepared. But that no other, speaking of distractions, nothing else. So if you can have that luxury, please do it. You'll appreciate that you did. Um, when I find it, another thing, if go to your testing center ahead of time. There's do this, drive to your testing center on the same day of the week that you're going to take the exam at the same time, since you know what the traffic is, since you're not running late, stressing yourself out already when you're about to take this brutal exam. Go in and talk to the people. Go into the office. Like, what I did, I found out, you can bring a clear water bottle in. Oh, wow, never knew that. But you got a feeling for, okay, one, where it's at, so you wouldn't be confused. Two, you can talk to make sure you understand the process when you go in, how long it's going to take. You see the lockers where I brought in my note cards. And by the way, when you take that lunch break, you can go back and look at your note cards. You can't while you're in that 3-hour exam window, but you can go back and go, hey, I want to look again at options or something, and quickly look at your flashcards if you have them locked up. Most people don't know that. Okay, how staying organized, that's I'll get into the OneNote here shortly, but now I'll quickly go through my last 3 to 4 week battle rhythm of how I got ready. I had Dalton guaranteed to pass, and you got some extra material, which I think was probably good, but you had to, when you take the exam readiness review, which is like a 50 question exam in a 4 or 5 day window, about a month out, you have to score a 70 on that to get the guarantee, which their metrics, that's the exam readiness review. They know based on your score, the likelihood of you passing. If you get a 70 or higher, you're like at a 99% chance of passing the exam. So you've already guaranteed yourself to pass in a sense. But those numbers are important. So like I said, Brian and Sarah took hey, I'm just going to go in and take the exam. A lot of people that's very not the way to do it. So if you are not ready, maybe skip the exam and say, okay, where do I need to focus for the next, in the next 3 months? Don't feel like I wouldn't have wanted to go in and fail, that scared me. But anyway, go in. That final week, I remember on Saturday, I was still a little bit nervous, looking at a few things. And then Sunday, I was nah, I got this. I felt confident. Going in Monday morning, I kind of felt confident. And then I went in and started the exam, and I had to flag the first 4 questions. I was like, maybe this is going to be a longer day than I expected. But expect that, okay? Like, I took a deep breath. I'm like, there's a lot of questions here. Don't let this freak you out. Move on, and I did. And when I finally hit submit, I was confident I passed the exam, and I was fortunate I did. But like I said, okay, I already covered the exam readiness review. Take the Dalton practice exams, both of them, but don't take these within like 5 days of the exam. Part of that is the endurance of sitting through a damn 6-hour exam. And so your brain is going to be freaking tired when you're done with that. So don't do that within about a week of the exam. Do those a couple of weeks out, but do a Dalton and it's going to kick your butt and be like, man, it's hard. Then do a CFP exam prep one. And you're like, okay, I feel, probably a little more confident, and then take the other Dalton prep course. But those give you the sense of how long they are, and when I took the exam, also on that little break, I just brought a couple of snacks. I brought some like hard-boiled eggs, a couple pistachios, stuff that was healthy, good, wasn't going to fill up my stomach and make me tired, but would give me that long-term energy for my brain through the next 3 hours. No sugar. It was just healthy stuff. So to me, that worked out very, very well. Let's see. Okay, on the final 3 to 4 weeks, like I said, I think I only answered like 800 questions of the 2,700 because I just ran out of time. And on the coaching call, he's like, "No, you've got to do that. You got to get through that. It's a mandatory to get through that whole bank, and you should do it twice." That's what they say from the beginning. And I remember thinking, okay, here's the thing about I did not take their coaching advice. I could have spent all my remaining time trying to get through that exam bank, which I couldn't have even once. And I might have gotten 1 or 2 more difficult questions correct, but every question is worth the same amount. And so to me, was more important is making sure I went back and reviewed all the material at least once, so that, because what I would have hated more than anything else, and I've done this on other exams, is I go in and I know it's an easy question, but I haven't looked at it in 3 months, and I'm like, oh, I know this. I did not want that to happen. So easy questions are worth the same amount as those hard questions. So reviewing everything again in those last 3 to 4 weeks is what I did. And like I said, I would start re-listening to all the live classes and office hours at 2 times speed in the car, and in the gym, wherever. So I just retouched on all the subject material. Like I said, I adjusted my cardio workouts to do walking up a treadmill. It was great. So it might be worth trying. I know Brian listened to podcasts during his other workouts, so those are great ways to do it. Dalton recommends you study the ethics 48 hours prior to the exam. Absolutely do that, because the ethics questions are really much more challenging than you think, and so that deep concept, focus on it right before the exam will help make sure you probably get 5 more questions right that you wouldn't if you hadn't done a detailed look at the ethics portion right before then. Let's see. I have a binder. I do a lot of stuff digital, but I had a binder that had the schedule, and it had I had all those the stuff they gave you and what you get on the exam, that the CFP provided information. And in those last 3 to 4 weeks, each day I'd flip through that. Okay, and it wasn't so much, most of those numbers by then I kind of knew, but it was really knowing what page that information was on, so that when you're in the exam, it's not a paper copy, which I prefer. I knew could scroll quickly to where the information is. It's a familiarity with exactly what they provided you, just to go quickly, yep, check, okay, number, that's right, and then move on. So and then I went through those quick sheets. That was kind of another one of my morning things. Those last 3 to 4 weeks, I'd start going through, not every one. Towards the end, I went through every one, but I'd pick a subject and go through those quick sheets. Has a lot of good information, just reviewing those fundamentals. Let's see. And then start practicing your brain dump. Real quick though, as far as note cards, if you could write out the note cards, that's better. And while you're studying, if you don't have time, because you got to at least take the note card, write down what the problem area is, and then go back and answer it later. But it's writing things down that puts it in your brain, not just reading it. Recurrence does help, but that pen to paper really helps. And you can do pen to paper on an iPad, and I'll show you that with OneNote. But I brought those in, and slowly over time, like, okay, I got this, and to take a number of note cards out of my pile because I know that material cold. And then I just had a smaller number that I slowly kept sifting through. And I brought those into the exam. They say don't do anything on exam day. I still did. Like I've done this all my life though. And I wasn't tiring myself out. I was just it's almost like my therapy, I guess, of going, okay, just kind of last minute look. Brain dump. Practice this too. They already talked about, here's some specifics you should have written down. As Sarah kind of said, Uber is a drunk person's immediate motor vehicle. The financial, write that down, because those questions aren't even easy. They purposely trick you with using words that are in a different step, but they're actually describing another step to try to make it more challenging for you, if that makes sense. So you got to know those cold, what the steps are. But that acronym is great. Options Foursquare chart, a must. That makes it so freaking easy to answer those options questions. I don't even have to think. What you want to do is minimize your thinking in the exam. If you can, learn through some of those questions with just simply, like look at your cheat sheet, great, because it's a long exam and your brain's going to be tired. Bond teeter totter, another one. Got to have that one down, because it just makes it so simple just to look at. On these questions, you burn through those questions so quickly. It's awesome. I did the tax formula as well, because that what's above the line, what's below the line. It was worth for me just, okay, Sarah wouldn't need that as an EA. For me, it was valuable when I'm looking at different deductions and that kind of crap. So because tax planning, tax portion, income taxation is the hardest part in general. I think everybody sees that in the coursework. Same thing likely with the exam, except for the scenario. Okay, everybody, you kind of got to figure out what works best for you. What I did is I didn't read the whole thing. I did read like the first paragraph just to get an idea. What is this? A family of four? What's the, like what the hell are what's the little setup? And then I'd scroll to the bottom, because you've got multiple pages, and there'd be like 3 or 4 questions. I'd look at what the questions are, then scroll back up and go find the answers. You know what I mean? And you only have so much time, because you've probably got, then you'll click next, and there's like 10 questions. So there's like 3 or 4 pages on that one scenario. But I would quickly do that. I go to the next page, and if I didn't know something, I wouldn't waste the time. Answer, flag it, move on, and then go to the next ones and do the same thing. Scroll down. Okay, what are the questions? And go find the answers to those questions. To me, that was the fastest way to get through those. And then they had some where I was like, I'm sure I got them wrong, unless I guessed it right. Like when in doubt, see it out. But I was like, okay, I don't know. And I could spend 20 minutes and probably still not know. I'm going to answer this question, flag it, move on. If I have some crazy insight later, which typically doesn't happen, okay, I'll change my answer. Don't change your answer unless you have absolute reason you were wrong, because your gut instinct is right typically. So don't do that. I'd say everybody probably knows that. 95% of the time, you take a good right answer and make it wrong. Okay, let's see, anything else? And Dalton provides on one of their office hours, they go into the brain dump and good things to have, but those are specific ones. Every one that I mentioned, I think everybody agree are important to have on your own brain dump. So let's see. I already said, if you can take the week off beforehand. Like I said, I use the quick sheets, and those only come with the guaranteed to pass. They're not that much money, but if somebody in the group, the Facebook group, what I did then is, uploaded them to the Facebook group, so everybody had them. But I walked through those, let me see if I can just find it real quick. Quick sheets. So, sorry, it's taking a little time to load. Okay, let's do it. Okay, there we go. Whoops. Dang, I can't go 150. I'm going to go 150%. So hopefully you guys can see these. But Sorry, I messed up. Okay, here's the money, these quick sheets. So they've got like the fundamentals. Takes my internet's, I guess, a little slow. Give it a pause. Okay, but these sheets. So I just walk through these one a day. Like in the morning. That was kind of my morning routine. Okay, let me go through the CFP provided table. Let me go walk through this, and then I'd focus on the ones that were the most challenging, like income tax or something like that. The estate. I wasn't, estate planning was something that, not being a person in the industry that was something that I took some more time on learning all about the eyelets and all that kind of crap. Okay, did anybody have any questions on that study approach? Like, and what I thought, important of reviewing everything one more time at least. And it also touches on, I haven't thought about that. And it'll resurface what your kind of weak areas are. But that makes sure you hit all those, every area, and you don't go into the exam and bummed out because you missed so many easy questions because you hadn't looked at it in 2 months. Okay, well, now we'll get into, if any questions. Otherwise I'll start doing the OneNote. Okay, so OneNote, it's Microsoft Office product. It's how I got into this was I was towards the end of my Navy career. I was getting ready to I was going to start taking an MBA. I hadn't been to school in quite a while, so I'm like, how the hell am I going to organize all the curriculum? And so I looked at several things, and then I found OneNote, and I watched a video, and I was like, this sounds freaking cool. This seems amazing. So I did. I went and started I started playing with it myself. And OneNote is like having a 3-ring binder that's, it's like you're having your notebook, and you have all these different tabs and sub tabs and stuff like that. And so what you do here, you see here, I'm sorry I can't make the text larger, but on the left here, this is the USC EMBA program. And Frank, that's what you're about to start. So I went in and created that's the notebook. And then you can go in here. These are sections you see right here. And then all of these on the top are multi-section groups, which is one of the freaking coolest things about OneNote. And so in the EMBA, in the MBA program, there was each segment of time was a theme, and there was like 3 or 4. So I'll go to theme 3 here. Every class was like 3 to 4, or sorry, every theme was like 3 to 4 classes. So what I did was I made a multi-section group. And then I put in everyone I had, like admin, like you probably do the same thing with your Dalton, which I'll show you. But we had marketing, leadership and organization, organizational management, finance, blah, blah, blah. And then specific stuff just for our study group. Then over here, you can see all the pages. So I'm in leadership and organizational management. And I would go and print we got soft copies of all the slides. So I'd print these to OneNote. And then I'd have all this in OneNote. Then I go to class, and I had a Microsoft Surface at the time, but iPad, anything that's got a pen, and I would write the notes. I had all this stuff here, and you can see over here, I broke it down into, I was kind of getting a little nerdy. I had emails from the professors, deliverables, case studies, I broke down like what are the different parts of the class, and then made sub pages and pages. So, and that's really cool to be able to do. You see how organized it is. And that's really easy. You just add a page like I did here. And I'll say, let's title this Logan subpage, because the page above it's something with Logan. And right there, there's nothing on it, obviously, but I'm going to make this a subpage. You can either right click and say, make subpage. You see it just did that. Or you can just move it with your cursor back and forth. Like, okay, I just made it a regular page or a sub page. You can do a sub page, etc. Come on, there we go. Get as nerdy as you want here, but typically a page and a sub page would be at the most all I need. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Okay, so I use that. So I don't know how many of you are taking the American college, but I took that same approach here with the MBA, and you can see, I had here theme 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5 were kind of together, and each of these were just different multi-section groups that held these sections inside and had all the material for the entire. Now I've got on my laptop, on my iPad, on my phone, everything in one place, so I can always reference it. Same with your Dalton's, your CFP prep stuff. I did for when I started studying for the CFP. Here's all my classes, and I had all the material they provided, and for me, like on those, for people that are taking coursework, this is where I took kind of everything. I'm gonna make this a little smaller so I can use more space. Wow, it's slow. Okay, but I copied all the exams too, and same thing with the Dalton prep. So here, these are all the classes I took and all the materials there. But then I took the prep course and I put everything in there as well. So if you look across here, I have just kind of getting started where they have, just important information. And I also, just so you guys can see, I put the schedule, and I used to check it off what I did, just as Michael was saying at the beginning. But here's here's the tax, and this is what I was talking about. CFP provides this, so you want to be very familiar with this as you're getting ready for the exams. You know right where to locate it, because you're going to be scrolling just like this to find that page when you take the exam.
And there's probably 3 to 4 questions on that exam that you will get just because you look at that tax table.
Yep.
You might forget that 23,500 is the 401k 415 limit for an employee deferral, but you'll look in there and be like, oh my gosh, that's the answer. It can't be that easy, but it is that easy.
It is. And it's more like, I think of like the child tax credit, and when you exceed the income, you're like, oh, all these damn numbers, you just quickly in 10 seconds, you got the answer 100% right. Okay, now I'll show you guys. Okay, so this is all like, here with the live classes. So I printed all these to OneNote, and I'll show you guys how to do that. And then I would take notes. So this is a cool thing. I would log in on the computer, and then I'm pulling out my iPad right now, and I'll show you. The beautiful thing is you print these to OneNote, and then you can write your notes, which is way better. They've proven way better for retention than typing or anything else. So if you can write the notes in your own hand, you're already helping yourself out a ton. And here's the cool thing. Let me get to, let's see, what page are we on? Okay. Okay, live classes. Okay, so you see the scribbling I wrote. Well, I'm gonna quickly erase that. And it's pretty cool little update. See, okay, so, but like here I am. Sorry, my handwriting's terrible, but so you can take your notes, learning much more effectively as you're listening to these classes. And when you're listening to them again, and you're like, oh crap, I forgot about one of those. You could start things, especially when I was doing like those, okay, depreciation recapture, and those like, oh, it's 25%, blah 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 blah. I put it in different colors, and so it made it, it just made it easier for me to remember. Okay, that and kind of got in the process, but so and fortunately, all of these they provide slides and stuff, but there's other things probably outside the CFP, or like I said, I'll just show you an example right here. Those exam bank questions, I'd be like, damn it, that was hard. I want to look at that again. And so I would snapshot watch this. if it's not so slow. Okay, but see, did you guys see I just did print screen, snapshot of that, and then you can dump it right in here in a page. Voila, there you go. You can do that with everything. Like in the RACP curriculum, they don't give you a nice slide deck, but they have these videos going. So as they're going through the video and all this stuff comes up, I just go print screen, snap, pull in. I'll show you right now how that how I did that. So okay, maybe. Come on. Sorry, this computer is so slow. Hey, so Brian, you might check in the chat. I see like 62. I don't know. I'm not good at monitoring chat while I'm doing this. So if somebody can, if there's if you have a question, just ask it out loud. But okay, so none of these slides, you see these, they look like slides, right? PowerPoint. Those are all snapshots I did listening to the videos. And now I have all the RACP, all their slide decks that they didn't share with us. All organized by section, by everything that we talked about. So I have that material to go back to later, you know, just for having, not for the, I don't care about the exam, it's for being able to, it can use that information again later. But it's beautiful. The other thing is, okay, I'll quickly make, let's make a new notebook so you guys watch. We can go through, and then you guys can you'll quickly be able to get started on your own. But so just new, it'll say, you know, whatever. Let's say CFP webinar, just for the name of it. Create notebook. You can then immediately come on. It'll ask you if you want to share it. So say if you have a study group, you guys can immediately share it, whether it's editable or readable. You can do this. I did this with my MBA. I just shared it with people. I didn't let them edit it, you know, but they had the material if they wanted to. So I'm not going to invite people, but you can right away. And then, okay, so now I just got a new notebook. Let me scroll down to the bottom so you see this where it's at. So like I said, I created CFP webinar right now. There's the notebook, and it immediately creates a section, a new section. So let's just call this, you just click in there and rename, right click, section 1. Okay, now what I love is those multi-section groups. So here, up here, if you just click the plus, it'll open another section. Okay, section 2. Okay, I'm not gonna care about my, whoops, you can't. Okay, if you come up here to the top though and right click, see that where it says new section or new section group, click on multi-section group, multi-1, I'm just calling it. Now you go into, click in that, and now you don't have any sections in there, but you can add in now section 1A, you know. You can just keep, you know, adding all these new sections inside your multi-section group. So it's kind of, for me, it compresses when you've got multiple things at the same time, especially the MBA. It was very helpful. But back to, so I'll go back up here to, okay. And then, like I said, here's the pages. We'll go, I'll title this page 1. Okay, put whatever information, blah. Okay, add a page. Come in there, it's untitled. Let's make this a subpage. 1. Boom. It's not a subpage though. You see it up here, it's the same hierarchy. So like I said, you could either right click and make it a subpage, or you could just use your cursor and move it to make it a subpage. Okay, you want to get real nerdy, subpage. And you can go in here and make this, you know, you can get as ridiculous as you want. But what questions do you guys have on this? Just on the quick how to create and make multi-section groups, sections, and, you know, get organized. Is any questions right now? Okay, I'm going to show you some other cool things. I already showed you the print screen. I use OneNote for everything. Like, do you guys go shopping? Do you guys buy the same groceries pretty much all the time? Guess what? I have a grocery list for all the different places I go. I've got a Costco, I've got a Trader Joe's, I've got a, and you know what? I just uncheck the stuff when we're running out. So I'll show you that real quick. So under home stuff, I've got diet and exercise. You know, like I've got whether it's CrossFit, running, rowing, strength. You know, like all these different things you can have here for different regimens you want. It's a great place to organize everything in your life. But home stuff. So like I said, we go shopping in the same places all the time. I do a lot of barbecue. So you know what? I have a standard list. You come up here, you just make it a checkbox instead of just a note. Insert home. But see that the to-do tag, that's how you create it like that. What else? Let's see, olives. And then if you do a to-do tag, every time you enter, it'll add another to-do. But here's my, when I go I'm gonna make smoked pulled pork coleslaw, whatever. I can go, okay, what do I need? And I go uncheck it. Go to the grocery store. It's on my phone. I've got a running, checklist. How about recipes? Let's go. I'm looking to do. I just got a larger pellet grill a little recently, so I haven't done a brisket in a while. Let's look up a brisket recipe. If you're not a meat eater, I'm sorry if I'm offending you. Okay, so Texas style smoked brisket sounds good. Let's see. Okay, jump to recipe. Okay, here's how you can use this. You can jump to recipe, and let's go. Okay, they always give you an option to print, right, when you're going in here. So you can print, and then print to as soon as you click print here. Come on. It'll give you options of where to print it, and you print it to OneNote. Come on. Man, you're slow. Sorry. This is it's all these stupid pop-ups. Okay, I'm not going to go to this lady's site again. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. But then you go in here and you print to OneNote. And then when you do this, I'm going to go to barbecue, make this easier. Print. And then it'll pop up like, where do you want to print this to? See, look at this. It says, okay, where do you want to put this printout? I'm like, and if you look up here, whatever section you're in, it'll give that as an option, like barbecue, duh. So current section, say okay, where is okay? This thing is too large, sorry. Okay, there it is. Okay, and then in a second, I'll have the printout. Voila. And you know what I do? I go and change it because usually I want a different recipe. I'm like, they have too much mayonnaise. I like more mustard. I'll just write my notes in, and then I go in the kitchen. I got my iPad. I got whatever I want to cook, ready to prepare right there. And then I just name it. Texas brisket. Okay, and you can go, wait, here's another cool thing. So you guys know the Chrome extensions. I'm using Google Chrome. So they have a OneNote extension. So if you don't have this already, just go to, just type in OneNote Chrome extension. It knows. So you go to the Chrome Web Store, and it has all these options for, and see, I've already got it in here, but it would say add to Chrome. That's this right here. But the cool thing about that is, remember how I just printed out? Okay, I'm going to go back to the recipe. So here's the whole page, they had, and you can just print this web page to OneNote with that extension. I just clicked here, and then it gives you options. Oh, it's slow. It will give me options. I swear. Maybe I go to an easier page. That's what I'm going to do. I'll just go to my website. Okay, print to OneNote. There. Okay. Now you see it gives you the option of printing a whole page. A lot of times, like, I don't want all that stupid ad crap. So you can just print the article and look at that. Now you get all the fluff goes away and you just have the meat of the material. Or you can do a region. You can clip out here and go, yep, I just want to say this. I just want to print this. Voila, you can print that. See how it just went to that region, and now they would print that out. Or, but I'll just go with the article, and it gives you the location right here. Where do you want to put this? I'll just put this. Let's see, whatever. I'll just put it in the HOA. Okay, whatever. I'll just keep it where it says recipe is poultry, where it's going. But then it prints and it puts a link to where that page was that you printed it off of. So let me go. That said recipes, poultry. See, you see here on the right, I got kind of nerdy because, like, okay, chicken thighs, no skin. I got chicken shawarma, all that. That's where I find that subpages is good when you're using it for home stuff like this. But this should have, see, voila, there's the page I just printed. And you see it clips, it shows you that way you could go right back to it. It's right at the top, clip it, and you can go right back to that page in future if you forget where it was at before. Okay, question. You guys got to have some questions quick on this.
Alan, can I show one thing that is similar, not similar to OneNote, but it's a mind map that Sarah was talking about, that concept. Do you mind if I share my screen and show kind of what that looks like?
I was trying to think. There was one other thing I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, go ahead, because I'm going to prep something else while you do that. Just another thing to how you print like files and crap like that. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I sent the request. I think you have to allow it for me to
Okay.
share since
Yep.
you're sharing. Let's see. Weird. Hold on for a second. I'm not sure what's happening to my. Oh, that's what's happening. All right, hold on.
While he's getting that, I see some questions about the guaranteed to pass. Yeah, there are extra videos, and on certain things like it's very good estates, and when you're talking about those, exchange, properties, there's some good extra videos, but it's like another, it's a pretty penny,
All right, sorry about that. I don't really know what happened. Coming back. Give me 1 second.
Yep. John, I don't know if there's do they have extensions for Safari in general? Just look it up, Google, or, in Safari, go, OneNote extension. And if not, why not use Chrome? Just thought.
So when Sarah was talking about mind maps, this is kind of what she was talking about. And you can see on the left side of my screen, I have all sorts of mind maps. This is in a program called Miro, but Miro allows you to kind of put these mind maps together to kind of put a visual, if you're a visual learner, obviously lets you put stuff in order to kind of like prioritize what it is that you are thinking and how it flows in your mind. And I can't tell you, I'm very visual. So pretty much every question on the test, I zoomed into one part of some map that I had up. This is a probate map, just what passes through, what doesn't pass through. But I mean, you can do anything. This was a tax mind map that had the tax formula all the way through it, just a different way to kind of look at it and kind of understand what was going on. This was a fiscal monetary policy map and it's tied into the business cycle. So you can obviously see it just all connects. So there's a ton of things at your disposal that you can absolutely use that will help you kind of think through stuff, whether it's OneNote and the way you organize your documents, or it's, Miro and mind maps to kind of figure this stuff out. You got to know yourself and you got to know what works for you, in terms of how you learn and how you kind of pick up information and remember information, because there's a lot of information to learn. This is just a simple estate planning map, the ABC trust setup. But I can't tell you, I had four questions on my CFP exam, and I literally could zoom in my brain into one very specific section of this map and know exactly what it was. So if you guys are visual learners, I would highly recommend that you guys do uh, something like that. This is my big qualified retirement map, which is everything you ever needed to know about any qualified plan in the history of the world. This is something that I put together that would overwhelm most people, but it was really helpful for me because I could zoom in and go, okay, well, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to go to this branch right here, and I need to look at this one very specific ADP testing thing. And I just knew in my brain I could zoom into that spot on the map because I knew these maps very well. But that's, like I said, it's Miro is the name of the app. And it's just super, super helpful for visual learners to kind of make and create those maps.
Cool. Thanks, Michael. Okay, I'm going to share again, and couple things. Julia, you hopefully, I think I saw you asked about allowing screen captures. I think you asked that probably before I did the print screens example, showing that yes, I use it all the time with OneNote. Other quick things about OneNote. Okay, some cool things here. You can add extra space in here. So you come over here from the insert space. And so if you want to write some notes in between, to the pages, you can come in here, select it this time, and watch this. See that? Now I just got more space in between to write notes down. Or you can just go, I didn't need that, and kind of go back up. You can change obviously the color of whatever you want. You can highlight stuff. You can search for whatever. Like, what is it? Damn, what's that 1031? Oh, here's all the places the 1031 exchange is. So you can immediately go right there. Click on, you can see kind of where it's at, and like, okay, I think it was actually in this part that I wanted to look at. But it's and you can, all these pictures, you can have it go in here and go, hey, where is it? Make text in image searchable. Isn't that freaking cool? So even if it's a picture or something, it'll figure out what the words are, and you can go find it. Now over here you see, if you guys haven't read this either, then this is a good book you should read at some point, not while you're probably prepping, but Peter T.S. Outlive. So I'm going to show you, because you guys are all going to get like soft copies, these files, PDFs, and when you get those, just go in and let me go back to the office hours. You go up here to that. This is just a small PDF printout, but when you print, and this is what I did, Frank, with all the stuff that you get for the MBA, all those, I just print, see it's already, just select OneNote in the desktop, print. It takes a couple of minutes, just or a few seconds. And once again, it asks you, where do you want it? Well, let's go with the current section. Okay. Voila, here's Outlive. And then you go take notes on it, draw on it, whatever you want to do. So I'll just go, watch, this is something cool too. So, okay, let's say you write on it, but you now you're covering something that you need. Well, you can go in and lasso that text, that stuff, and move it. So watch this. Oh, I want it over here. So you can, if it's covering something that you need, you just go in and lasso it and move it out wherever you want. Like I said, I copied and pasted a bunch of practice questions, ones that especially that I got wrong, because that's how I learned. That's what most people learn. It's getting things wrong that you're like, damn. That's how you learn. So I put those down, or ones that I got right, but I knew it was just a guess. I put those in, and then I had a place to review them. So here's like I said, here's all the Dalton prep, but I had sorry, I had quite a few sections. Exam practice questions. So check this out. I would just, copy and paste. I initially was using, okay. Come on, sorry, it's so slow loading. But yeah, see, I just copy and paste or screen capture and paste it into this exam practice question section that I had. And then I had all these questions. I could just go back and review. Look at it. You can see how many there. I took quite a few. And you have your own, like, oh yeah, what was this? And you go take notes, what you didn't understand, what you did. Okay, I think, Brian, am I missing anything that I usually cover on the OneNote? He might have had to step out. What questions do you guys have? You can also, obviously, all these sections, you see how they're different colors. Go in and right click, and you can, you can change the section color, however you want to do it, move it up and down, just whatever. Okay. Okay, what questions do you guys have? Nothing? I know I didn't explain it that well, so there's got to be some questions. Let's see. I'll just quickly look at any of the. Okay, good. You already put that down. Okay. Well, that's what I have. Any questions or any feedback how we can make this better in the future? So I ran long, but we had Michael, Sarah, and Armando providing over 30 minutes of recent guidance on what helped them out. So thank you for that. Very valuable.
Alan, what day of the week did you take your exam? Did you do a Monday or a Friday?
I did a Monday. So, and I did that on purpose because, like I said, if you can take the week off, Angela, do it, and tell Sean to go screw himself. Just kidding.
I'll do that. Okay, I got you.
Sean was actually a mentor of mine when I was just getting into studies. He's a great mentor in general. But
absolutely, yes.
But we like to make fun of each other, of course, because we're also Navy. I took it on the Monday, and it was kind of the last day. I took it so that I had the weekend before, so I knew I didn't have work, and I had a couple of days off before that. So it allowed me the maximum amount of nothing else but CFP focus for those last days rolling into the exam. That's why I picked Monday.
I picked Friday just because I wanted to be able to relax after it. So and that's really what I thought. Originally, I had scheduled the last day of the window, and then we had our live review about 4 weeks in, so I had 2 months left, and I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to want to wait one more week to take this. So I actually moved my test the day after I got done with my live review from the 17th to the 11th. And sure enough, about July 1st, I was so done. I was so ready to take that dang test. And I'm glad that I did it early in the window just because you never know what's going to happen. Say that that fire alarm situation really didn't resolve itself. I would have had to come back and take the test. But if that would have been on the last day, there's no telling if they couldn't have done that or not or made that work. So I've always heard study hard, schedule it earlier in the window. And as a result, you'll give yourself more opportunity in case something were to happen that you couldn't make it.
And by the way, real quick, Angela, the exam dates are the 3rd through the 12th. So even if you did it on a Monday, if you wanted that, if that worked well for you, like I was talking about, you'd still have, in case of the fire alarm, 11th, 12th, or 13th to still, or 11th and 12th. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to go with the first date, but what work makes the most sense for you? So
No fire alarms. It's not going to happen. Not to anybody else.
that happened to somebody. Exactly what you said though happened to one of the people in the Facebook group, and they had to shut. It wasn't a fire alarm, but something they had to shut down the testing center.
Yeah, and I guess Prometric has a button they can push on every computer that's supposed to freeze it right where it is. Because we all went, because there were nurses in there and some Series 7 and 66.
Oh yeah.
We all went, what are we supposed, like, what if we lose our place? They said, write down the number that you're at and how much time you have left. And if anything is different when you come in, let us know immediately. But they just pushed one button on the computer and we walked outside for 25 minutes, came back. I think I lost about 10 minutes on the first one, but I was ready to push through. The second one, I didn't lose any time because I wrote it down again, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay. Good question, Angela. Anybody else? Okay. Well, if that's it. Hopefully this was worth your time, and wish all of you the best. And hopefully you can join the Facebook group and start help. If you don't have somebody nearby that you can team up with, like everybody said, having that. Not only some people are smart on certain different areas, so they might be able to explain it better. That and I think even more than that, it's the emotional support that's going to be the most helpful to everybody, by having some friends in there that are lifting each other up. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
Appreciate you
much.
taking the time to do this.
Yes.
You're welcome. And like, if you guys have questions or anything I can help with, shoot me. LinkedIn's where I'm typically on more, so that's why I ask people to try to typically connect with me there. And that's where I also post to where if I'm doing these or other other kinds of things like that. So okay.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Okay.
Are you going to
Thanks.
XYPN?
Yeah, I'll see you in Austin. I'm a Longhorn, so it's gonna be
Okay.
it's gonna be.
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
haven't been to Austin in like so long. So not only is it XYPN, but I'm going to see a bunch of friends that I went to school with, back in the
Awesome,
day.
yeah.
It's going to be so cool. And we're going to go out to
looking forward to it.
barbecue. So, be ready. We're Salt Lick is my favorite place. It's a little further out of town, but we might go something closer. But I would love to go to Salt Lick if we could do that on one of those nights. It's best barbecue in the
This is
world.
my first time to Austin, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, cool.
All right. Bye.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night, and I
Thanks.
look forward to hearing your successful passing of the CFP.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.